It is currently 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central here on July 22nd. We're watching, of course, Bertha, which has weakened now down to 45 miles per hour, sustained pressure up to 1,000 millibars. So this storm system's weakening as it nears landfall, completely and utterly sheared apart due to mid-latitude or mid-level, winds just kind of pushing from the east towards the west, and that's why the bulk of the convection really removed from the center of circulation. And the hurricane hunters were just out there, found winds within that core of the storm 44 miles per hour, and reports along the coast are steady around 20 to 30 miles per hour. So this is by far not a destructive storm by any means here. 45 mile per hour winds expected to continue to weaken after it moves on shore. And technically the low level center, is moving directly over New Orleans or just towards the south of you, but it's not going to have destructive winds by any means here. And that's one of the big things, nor heavy rainfall. You can see the bulk of the convection, as I mentioned, that shear kind of pushing this all off towards the south and the west. Still, tropical storm warnings are in place from the Panhandle, Panama City, across Mobile, Biloxi, and we could see some low-lying flooding in some of those flood-prone spots during high tide, just due to the long fetch area with those winds coming on shore. Not so much the local kind of wind waves, but the long duration of those winds getting blown across the Gulf and moving on shore here. But you can see here the track moving off towards the west as we go through Wednesday and into Thursday. And I hope that emphasizes a lot here that we're not hyping this by any means, just giving you the latest update. And really want to stress this is a low-level tropical storm. The center completely exposed with the convection down towards the south. Still some coastal showers are possible here, and you can see that even across Mobile, stretching back towards Pensacola. There's a few spots here that are seeing those winds at 20 to 30 miles per hour, and the radar really just tells the story, though. Nothing terribly heavy, no strong thunderstorms in that low-level center, now passing just south of Biloxi, Pascagoula area, and eventually heading out here towards the west into New Orleans across the Mississippi River Delta. Pull back the picture, you can see where the bulk of that convection is, but all of that shear really just pushing these thunderstorms towards the west. This is also why across the first coast and further towards the east, we really have some drier air and sunnier skies continuing to dominate. So Jacksonville and all the way down towards Orlando remaining hot and dry today due to that subsidence on the east side of this. Here's a look at the infrared satellite imagery, just another kind of idea of what we're talking about here. And there's that water vapor imagery. Not only are we seeing shear, but loads of dry air just kind of blowing this out. If you have a birthday cake, for example, put that cake down, you got those candles blowing, they're burning, and you blow on it and the flames tilt. This is what's kind of happening here. It's blowing this, and that shear is just going to absolutely disrupt that. And that's the key thing. A storm system like this, even though we can see that low-level center, if we had a lack of shear, it would allow it to have that exhaust aloft, the convection rate over top of it. But what we're seeing in this, solid 30, 40 knot wind shear in those mid-levels, that's just kind of blowing this right over. So take a look at the spaghetti models, and this is also just as a teaching point, a good example of how the spaghetti plots are useful in forecasting a storm center, but it does not tell you the whole story whatsoever, because this shows you right there that this is crossing right over southern Louisiana. But if you looked at the satellite imagery, the bulk of the convection is towards the south of that. Now, the good news, that's out over water, but it would make a big difference if the winds were coming the other way, and then we would see the heaviest of the rainfall on land versus the low-level center. Just kind of pointing it out, and a lot of people love their spaghetti models, and I just want to kind of emphasize this is one of those examples where it is a tool, but it doesn't tell you the whole story. But right now, Bertha continues to be sheared. Tropical storm warnings are in place along the Gulf Coast, but it is not damaging conditions by any means, just some kind of coastal low-lying flooding. This is not a repeat of Arthur that dropped like 2 feet of rainfall in some spots, a far cry from that. Further towards the east, though, we are even seeing a little bit of rip current risk along the Florida coastline, not only on the west coast, but even the east coast due to the wide wind field, and those southerly winds continue to build up. But you can see here in our futurecast, our storm system still tracking off there towards the west, and it eventually make that other landfall there into Texas. Could bring some coastal rough conditions there, maybe around Galveston. before it weakens out. Behind it, though, yeah, the winds still remain out of the south. That still means for the next few high tides, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some water levels at least above normal across the Mississippi River Delta, extending along the Gulf Coast into Mississippi and Alabama. How about the rainfall? Well, the heaviest of it is staying offshore. That is courtesy of that vertical wind shear we were just talking about a moment ago. That's keeping the worst of the weather off there towards the south. Now, in the broader picture, we do have a front off towards the north that's actually been bringing some really rough weather across parts of the mid-Atlantic back through the Great Lakes. That will shift towards the south by the end of the week into the end of the weekend, so Sunday over towards Monday, increasing afternoon showers and thunderstorms across the first coast, and that includes there in Florida and southeastern areas of Georgia. So despite the fact that storms moving off towards the east, you will see some of that secondary influence with that front getting pulled in from the north. So it is 2 o'clock here Eastern time. The next full update will come out at 5. We'll see if this does officially make that landfall at that point. A little bit closer to home, though, let's talk about out here across Jacksonville and the First Coast, and just loading up our graphic real quick, showing you a little bit of that future cast, and it's still staying hot and dry here, and that's one of the big things. Temperatures into the 90s, isolated showers, but not really, not a lot of it to be had here as we go ahead through the rest of our Wednesday and into Thursday. And here's a look at that extended forecast for Jacksonville and the First Coast. Yeah, it's going to be hot with that increase in rainfall potentially by Saturday and into Sunday. I'm meteorologist Robert Spetta. That's a look at your forecast out here with Bertha and a little look at the local forecast as well. We'll have another update coming out in just a bit.